Hello everyone and welcome back to The Simply CA. My name is Alana, and on this channel you are going to find both yoga flow with a little bit of fitness elements thrown in, as well as right now we're doing a human design series to get the basics covered. And then once we have the basics covered, we're going to take a look at using human design, how I use it with coaching, as well as how you can use it in your daily life. If you are enjoying this content, go ahead and click on the subscribe button as well as the notification bell. And if you are loving the human design series, give it a thumbs up so I know that you are enjoying learning about this information. Today in the human design series, we are going to be talking about the variables. So this is the second time I'm filming this video because I was out of focus yesterday and the same thing happened. 2 arrows on each side. There are the 4 arrows on your chart. Today is going to be the first of 2 videos that are going to cover the 2 arrows on each side. So the 4 arrows in your chart or the 4 variables in your chart. Now those variables contain a wealth of information, but what we're going to talk about is just the really top level information that's going to help you to integrate that knowledge into how you operate in your daily life. When it comes to the variables, and really all of human design, but when it comes to the variables, because there's so much information, it's great to just get the top level overview, the broad perspective, and then you can start using that information and know that as you use the information, as you use the human design system and the human design experiment in your life, you'll begin to tune back in with your own intuition, and all of those deeper pieces of the puzzle will start to lift up towards the surface. Now, if you have a 1 in your profile, which is a completely other separate part of this, but if you've looked up your chart and you have a 1 in it, I know that you want a whole lot more information than what I'm going to cover, and there are a ton of resources out there. So you are more than welcome to definitely keep doing your own research. I'm just here to introduce you to the material. And with that said, let's talk about the arrows. So the arrows can face either right or left, and there can be any combination of right facing or left facing. Now, arrows that are more left facing mean that you're more of an active participant and they're more strategic and you are more actively engaged in that area. The arrows that point to the right are more of a go with the flow, receptive vibe. Now, when I say that, I don't want you to think that if you have a quad right or if you have a whole bunch of arrows that point to the right that you're not an active participant in your life, because we see things so linearly. Really what it is there's this spectrum, and it means that you don't necessarily need to be going out and getting. It's a little bit more of a keep doing the things that you know to do, keep taking action, and then allow for some options to flow to you, and then you can use your authority in order to respond to those options. At the same time, for those of you who are more left facing, I don't want you to be like, well, but I want to be right facing, because they just get to sit back and relax. What it is that the energy that you put out as you're more intentional with the specifics of what it is that you're looking for and the active participation and going out and getting there, you might find that you follow a little bit more of a direct line to a specific goal versus potentially a little bit more of a come what may flow for something that kind of looks like what you originally maybe thought about, but you get to be surprised by the experience along the journey as well as the result of the journey. So just like with everything in human design, there is no right or wrong or good or bad or one way is better than the other way. It is all how we use our unique energy. And when we're in flow with how our energy actually works, they're both quick processes. It's when we're trying to do the other thing and we're bumping up against ourselves and our energy and we get really frustrated that we have a hard time. All right, let's get into the left side arrows. So the left side arrows are the ones we're going to talk about in this video, and in the next video we're going to talk about the arrows that are on the right side of your human design chart. If you are enjoying this content and you want to make sure that you are notified when that next video comes out, click on the subscribe button and the notification bell and you will be notified when that next one hits the YouTubes. The top left arrow is about digestion. And now here's the fun thing about human design is it doesn't tell you what food types to eat. It doesn't tell you what diet to follow. What it talks about is the way in which you are digesting and ingesting both your food as well as the world around you. So the bottom arrow on the left side is the environment arrow, so we'll talk about that shortly. But this top one is how you take things in, how you ingest, and how you digest. Now, if your top left arrow points to the left, like this little diagram here, if your top left arrow points to the left, your energy, when you're taking in the world around you, prefers more structure, more routine, more consistency. You prefer to have more order. When it comes to food, when your top left arrow points to the left, meal prep is your friend. You loved meal prep before meal prep was a thing. You wanted to do all of that. Batch cooking has always been part of your life. Having an organized fridge and pantry, knowing where things are, labels on your jars, having things pre-planned, having a grocery list that is linked up to your meal plan for the week. All of that is the type of structure that that left-facing top left arrow loves. Now, when it comes to taking in and digesting the world around you, that top left-facing arrow has a very focused energy. It can tune out the world around it. So you could read on a subway and be focused on what it is that you're reading. You could get caught up in what it is that you're doing, and your partner or someone is like, what's going on? Are you paying attention? And you are paying attention to what it is that you're focused on. Taking in tasks singularly is more natural for that top left-facing left side arrow. With the top left right facing arrow, I have to make sure I'm saying these correctly. With the top left right facing arrow, these people prefer variety, spontaneity, changes in direction, a little bit more freedom and wiggle room in their life and in their plans. They may choose to make a round of food and then decide that they actually would rather go out for dinner most nights of that week. They're a little bit more spontaneous. When it comes to food, these people hate meal prep. My top left arrow points to the right, and I have forced myself to learn meal prep because it's practical, but I can go for about 3 meals in a week unless there's something there, unless there's a nutrient that my body really needs. For the most part, I can't have the same meal more than 3 nights in a row or 3 meals in a row. And my my body will actually like close down my esophagus and say like, no, we're not eating this anymore, which is totally fine. So what I learned is that for me, I can kind of prep 2 to 3 meals at a time, or if I have a couple different options, and then I need to make sure that I'm not holding myself to that. If at some point in time throughout the week I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want this one type of meal, or I'm just not feeling what it is I'm eating, or I would rather go out for lunch today, what I've learned is to be more soft with myself instead of scold myself and say, you know what, this is part of how my energy works. This is what my body and my ingestion needs. I need this little bit of spontaneity. Now, what I am going to say about that is it's really important, especially when it comes to food, to have a few backup meals, a few things that if your authority isn't saying yes or leaping onto something, or there isn't a clear like, I want this, it's really important to have a few things that you can just turn to so that you're nourishing yourself. Now, people who have that top left arrow pointing to the right, sometimes they might fast for a day, or they might have a juice day without even planning it. It might just be something that they do, or they might not eat until 2 o'clock in the afternoon and completely not even notice it, versus someone with that left facing arrow does much better when they have slightly more or very structured meal times. Okay, so when it comes to taking in the world around you, when it comes to ingesting, the top left arrow pointing to the right has a very broad lens. So again, for example, I have a really hard time focusing on reading something if there are other things that are happening. I can listen to a podcast while I'm driving, but I can't listen to an audiobook while I'm driving because I want to be singularly focused on the audiobook. And when there are other things happening, I know that my energy just needs that broader view, and it works better for me to be able to have multiple things going on that I'm not specifically thinking, oh, I really want to be paying attention to this. So for me, having the conversation of a podcast works a whole lot better. The other thing, because this right-facing top left arrow takes in the world a little bit more broadly, what has a tendency to happen is that people will be talking and all of a sudden these facts will start spewing out of their mouth, and they'll have all this information and they have no idea where it came from, and they can't quote that source. And people are like, how do you know so many little bits about so many things? And it's because when they're in an environment, they're taking in little bits and pieces because their view, their lens is a little bit more broad in scope. Let's talk about environment. So this is the arrow on the left side that is on the bottom. So when that bottom left arrow points to the left, these people like to have more structure, more routine, more familiarity with their environment. And when their environment is known and is familiar, or if they're traveling, when their environment is pre-planned, it allows their energy to soften into the space that they're in, and it allows them to be observed as they're experiencing that space, because they're not trying to put order into chaos. They already have that safety, that peripheral awareness of their environment, and then once that's there, these people are able to relax into the environment. Now, I know this is a touchy subject right now while I'm filming this, but I love to use travel as an example for the environment arrow. And when it comes to travel, that left-facing bottom left arrow is completely happy to travel, but they prefer to travel either to somewhere that's known or they're more likely to really pre-plan their trip. I have that bottom left arrow facing to the left, and what I find is as long as there are certain parameters that I feel I can control or that I've pre-planned or pre-controlled, I have a much smoother trip. I have a much smoother experience. I'm more at ease. I can feel that sense of vacation. So for example, if I'm going somewhere that I don't know, I don't speak the language, I rather go with a tour group. I rather go with a group of people who has a connection to that place. I rather make sure that I know the airline I'm flying with, the airports I'm flying through. Honestly, if I could, I would love to know which gate I was arriving into and which gate I was departing out of. Yes, call me a control freak. That is fine. And this is the whole thing about human design, is that this is the one area in my life that I have a left-facing arrow. This is the one place where once those structures are in place around me, I am free to allow everything else to flow. I'm curious, who out there has a bottom left-facing arrow? And have you been called controlling in your environment, or if you go traveling with your partner? I am so interested to know. Let me know down in the comments if I'm the only one who experiences this. I'm pretty sure I'm not, but I would love to know your experience with it. Now, of course, when that bottom left arrow points to the right, these people are the complete opposite. They love spontaneity when it comes to their environment. They are the type of people that when it comes to travel are completely happy with planning a last-minute trip, grabbing a one-way trip ticket, arriving at a destination with one night planned at a hotel or a hostel, and then they see who they meet. They go with the flow. They decide that they want to spend 3 nights where they are, and then they meet some people and they're like, oh my goodness, let's go to another location. And they end up spending a month in that new location because they've met some friends and they want to hang out and they decide that they want to go on some adventures together. And that works really well for their energy. These people thrive. This is where their energy thrives. They gain inspiration, creativity from these new environments and these new experiences and this new situation that they get to immerse themselves into. That is where their energy gets expansive and really allows them to learn and expand their knowledge and their experience through this open and flexible experience of their environment. Now, I'm so curious, if you are someone with a right-facing bottom left arrow, what experiences have you had? How does this resonate for you? Let me know down in the comments below. As I have said before, and as I will continue to say over and over and over again, human design gives you the permission to be who you are. And when you are being who you are, you give the permission to those around you to be themselves. So the more of us who are really diving into this aspect of getting to know who we are and giving ourselves that permission to stand in who we are and experience life in the way that our energy best works, we give everyone around us that permission as well. I really hope you are enjoying this content. Please let me know in the comments down below, as well as by giving this video a thumbs up and hitting the subscribe button and notification bell so you get notified every time I post a new video. In the next human design series, we're going to talk about the arrows that live on the right-hand side of your human design chart. Until next time, have a wonderful day and take care.